Welcome to this explainer. Over 2,000 years ago, on a really quiet hillside overlooking the Sea of Galilee, a message was delivered that didn't just cause a stir back then, it completely and utterly inverted humanity's entire metric for greatness. These teachings, which we know as the Beatitudes, were not just a bunch of comforting religious sayings, they were a total revolutionary reversal of literally everything the world tells us is important. It was a massive paradigm shift that continues to challenge us today. So let's jump right in and explore exactly how this revolution of the heart actually works.
So let's start by diving into a question that challenges the very foundation of how our world operates. What if true success wasn't measured by wealth? We're so deeply conditioned, especially today, to just automatically look at bank accounts, material possessions, and economic status to figure out a person's worth. Society pretty much trains us from day one to climb the ladder, accumulate more stuff, and measure our lives by our assets. But what if that entire framework is just completely upside down? What if the universe is measuring success by a totally different standard?
Or, get this, pause and really reflect on this one. What if power actually belonged to the gentle? Think about the first century for a second. The world was being ruled by the absolute iron fist of the Roman Empire. Influence was seized by the loudest voice, the most aggressive leader, or the strongest army. To the original listeners on that hillside, power meant military might. It meant dominance. Imagining a society where influence belongs to the gentle, that forces us to ask what true power actually looks like when you completely strip away the force. And then there's this incredible paradox. What if those who mourn were actually the ones who are blessed? These aren't just philosophical musings or poetic little riddles meant to make us feel better. They form the core of a revolutionary manifesto. They challenge every culture, every government, and every single human heart, basically forcing us to reevaluate everything we think we know about winning and losing in life. It's a complete reimagining of what a good life actually looks like.
Now, the historical context here is absolutely crucial. We know that Jesus climbed a mountain to deliver this message, right? Which is very much like Moses receiving the law on Mount Sinai. The people back then were desperate for a new vision, but they were fully expecting a political revolution. They were waiting for a violent uprising built on earthly power to finally overthrow their Roman oppressors. But instead, they were offered a revolution of the heart, a brand new kingdom that begins within ordinary people, transformed from the inside out rather than being imposed from the top down.
Which brings us to the very first of these profound statements. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. These ancient words immediately challenge us to redefine what it actually means to be weak or strong. Because when we hear the word poor, our minds instantly go to empty bank accounts and a lack of physical resources. But there is something so much deeper happening in this text. It's actually addressing a fundamental posture of the human soul. Jesus wasn't just out there praising material poverty. He was pointing to the essential, radical humility required to receive grace. To be poor in spirit basically means recognizing our absolute, inescapable need for God and coming to Him with completely empty hands. History is constantly reminding us that human pride and arrogance ultimately destroy nations and fracture our societies. But humility opens the door to grace. This new kingdom begins exactly where human arrogance ends, asking us to willingly lay down our ego.
Shifting now to the reality of human suffering, this teaching addresses something we're all inevitably going to face. Grief is universal. Every single family experiences loss. But this teaching isn't claiming that pain is meaningless, and it definitely doesn't offer empty, shallow platitudes to try and rush us through our mourning. Instead, it promises that in our universal experiences of profound loss, we are met with divine comfort. The profound message here is that God actively meets us right there in our absolute deepest sorrow.
And that leads us to literally one of the most misunderstood concepts in all of history: meekness. Far too often we just assume meekness means weakness. But it's not weakness at all. It is strength under control. Think of the historical metaphor they often use for this word: a powerful, highly trained warhorse. It has the absolute capacity to cause serious harm or exert dominance, but it intentionally keeps that immense power harnessed, obedient, and under perfect control. It's the immense power of a skilled warrior who deliberately chooses peace.
The contrast to our typical power structures today couldn't be clearer. Our modern world absolutely continues to celebrate aggression, dominance, and tyranny as signs of effective leadership. The loudest voices still always seem to command the most attention. But this revolutionary message, it celebrates meekness. Because when we look back at history, it consistently reveals that lasting transformative influence actually belongs to servants, not tyrants. Tyrants eventually fade into dust, but servant leadership changes the world forever.
Which brings us to a really compelling call to action. Hungering and thirsting for righteousness demands that followers don't just sit back and passively avoid doing evil. It requires us to actively pursue what is right. It's all about desiring God's justice way more than our own personal comfort, safety, or convenience. It's an active, burning desire to see broken things made whole according to a higher divine standard, rather than just settling for the status quo.
And as we pursue that justice, we start to see how this builds into true social transformation through mercy and purity. Mercy fundamentally interrupts the endless, destructive cycles of revenge that totally dominate human history. In a world completely obsessed with getting even, somebody has to be the one to stop the cycle, and mercy does exactly that. Purity, on the other hand, reminds us that true transformation starts way before any outward actions happen. It begins quietly and invisibly, right there in the motives of the heart.
Our world desperately needs peacemakers right now, and peacemakers do so much more than just avoid conflict. They courageously step right into the mess to bring healing where others create division. You can really see how this internal purity and peace naturally ripples outward. It is a true bottom-up revolution. It starts with transformed hearts, which then heal families, which in turn restore communities, and eventually that has the power to change entire nations. It just proves that real change always starts from within.
But we definitely have to acknowledge the unexpected cost of this revolution too. Jesus promises that those who are persecuted because of righteousness are blessed. Defending these truths and maintaining faithfulness is not easy, and honestly, it rarely makes you popular. Historically, it has carried a severe cost, leading to imprisonment, societal rejection, and profound suffering for countless believers throughout the centuries who just absolutely refuse to compromise their convictions.
That suffering, however, is never in vain. The historical courage of those who faced persecution serves as a huge, powerful anchor for us today. It reminds us that true justice, mercy, and righteousness are always worth standing up for, no matter the pushback, the cultural climate, or the personal consequences. Their unwavering stand is an incredible testament to a faith that looks way beyond temporary comfort to eternal truths. So as we bring all these revolutionary ideas together, we see the ultimate contrast. It is the fundamental difference between a kingdom of worldly force, where the strong, the rich, and the loud completely dominate, and the kingdom of God, which is a greatness built entirely on love and sacrifice. In this kingdom, the rules are just totally inverted. The last become first, the marginalized are centered, and the humble are the ones who are ultimately lifted up.
When you step back and look at all these traits together, something really incredible becomes apparent. These teachings are not just a list of ancient ethical guidelines or some new set of rules to rigorously follow. They are actually a direct, living portrait of Jesus himself. He was humble, he mourned, he was meek, he showed mercy, he made peace, and he suffered for righteousness. It shows us that to follow him is to actively become like him.
As we reflect on these words once more, it's so clear that they are just as alive and subversive today as they were on that hillside 2 millennia ago. They invite every single generation to just abandon the world's endless race for status and step into a completely different kind of greatness. A greatness where the truly blessed are those who walk in humility, purity, and peace, transforming the world not through force, but through a quiet revolution of the soul.
I want to leave you with a final, provocative thought to really consider as you look at your own life and the metrics of success you've chosen to pursue. Which kingdom are you building? Are you building a kingdom of force, wealth, and pride? Or are you building a revolution of the heart? It's a question that changes absolutely everything. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope it helps you see true greatness in a completely new light.